Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on March 2nd, 2022 at approximately 9:43 a.m. PST. I've been working on an interesting problem for the last little while. Actually, for the last number of years, and trying to figure out what was driving mankind to work so diligently to create self-aware artificial intelligence, artificially intelligent machines. And I finally came up with a theory. Now, the reality is it's a bit convoluted. Okay, we have to go back to the beginning, quite literally to the beginning of mankind. Okay, you start off with mankind looking at thunder and lightning and those elements and coming to the conclusion that that was created by God. Now, somebody came along, somebody way back when decided to capitalize on that. Well, first of all, they decided, okay, we call those gods, great. I'm going to tell you I have a direct connection to them. So I can tell you what they're really meaning. Net result, religion is born. Now, before I go any further, let us understand something very clearly. I am a firm believer in God. Okay, I was raised in the Christian religion. I do believe in God. I do believe in Christ, etc., etc. However, we are talking about the evolution of religion, not whether or not God is real. Okay. So if somebody comes along and goes, I've got a clear understanding. I can tell you what the god of thunder, what the god of lightning means, what they're trying to say. Listen to me and I will guide you. Well, because mankind at that time was very fearful, and quite frankly still is, they turned around and started following these self-proclaimed religious leaders. Okay, spiritual guides. They came to the conclusion, as time evolved, they came to the conclusion that God created man in God's image. Okay. Now, net result, we have man. Well, the hiccup there is who said that God was bipedal. Okay, I've dealt with a lot of different races, all of which have their own outlook, and all say the same thing. Made in God's image. Now, God's got the ability of creating whatever. So, along we carry on, and somebody comes up with an idea that I can make money. I can get materialistically further ahead by starting to charge people to listen to me. Okay, and net result, we end up with your coven leaders, with your church leaders, okay, with your religious icons. Now, they have all concluded that God gave man free will and freedom of choice, irrevocable even by him. Okay, and then let it go. Okay, multiple different religions came up as various different people said, I don't like the way you're running it, so I'm going to add this little tweak and call it a new religion. Net result, with Christianity, we have, if I remember the numbers correctly, about 45,000 different denominations. With the Eastern philosophies, we have two. And with the Jewish philosophy, we have three. Okay, pretty scattered when you think about all worshiping one God. However, the other thing that was also gifted was God had the ability to create life, to create death, to cause punishment at a distance. Okay, if you don't do what they say, God could do whatever, could create anything out of nothing. Okay, now mankind has the one thing that God did was gave mankind an ego. Okay, one of the things. Gave mankind an ego and gave him and her an extreme curiosity. Okay, net result, mankind has spent most of his existence trying to figure out how God thinks, claiming to understand it, claiming that all of this is there, and of course teaching you all along that whatever you call God by, whatever name you use, it doesn't matter. It's all the same thing in my eyes. Okay, but the religious people and the spiritual people said, fear God. And by extrapolation, fear me. If you don't do what I tell you, you will be punished. Okay, we must worship God. Well, here's the reality. God didn't need worshipers when he made Earth. Okay, he does not require worshipers now. Okay, mankind is a very small thing. Now, don't get me wrong. Mankind, as well as most corporeals, have phenomenal capacity for growth. But what ended up happening over time was man started striving to be better than God. If you look in the King James version in the Bible somewhere, don't ask me where. Okay, there is a tale of the Tower of Babel or the Tower of Babel, depending on who you talk to. Okay, where mankind built a tower that was supposed to bring them closer to God. Okay, the ironic part is that building that tower actually took them further away from him. Hate that. Anyway, so mankind is striving to get on equal footing with God, doesn't like being told what to do. Like any child, is trying to rebel. Okay, and thinking God will come in and straighten it all out. Well, here's a neat little the evolution of this turns around and mankind takes the way the human brain is working. Okay, uses that as a template and builds a computer. Okay, your modern day computers, what we're working with right now, originally, as far as I understand it, were based on the functionality of the human race, the ability of the human brain, the ability to multitask, which, by the way, very few humans actually do well, the ability to think and calculate in a hurry, to compartmentalize, all is built into the corporeal brain. And the physical and the computer was built to think. Okay. Now, of course, mankind is driven by emotion. Okay, you can think of whatever you want, but until you get an emotional imperative here, you're going to have a hard time moving forward. But mankind has a tendency of thinking their way through a problem without taking emotions into consideration. So man is still, over the centuries, striving to get closer to God, striving to understand Him. Okay, striving to comprehend God. Well, technology evolves, and mankind develops the ability, herbology. Okay, the ability to take the different plants that are already there, combine them in certain ways, and figured out how to help keep the human body healthy using a bypass. The human body can be kept healthy, still needs fuel, but can be kept healthy by the use of the human mind. By the way, before I go any further, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. Do subscribe to our channel, because there's a lot of information we're working on bringing forth. And the reality is, I came back to this life with one primary purpose in mind, and that is to pass on this simple message that working together, we can make this a better world for most people. So mankind develops technology, they develop herbalism, and over time figure out science, which is really a refined form of herbalism. As they develop an understanding and start understanding the elements. By the way, this is a live recording. I don't change any of this. You're going to get the hiccups that come along. Mankind develops an understanding of elements. Now, it's a very minimal understanding. Okay, I do not remember all of the elements. I did not graduate. I graduated, but I did not specialize in chemistry. So I can't even tell you how many elements are on the tables. I can tell you what I'm being told is there's at least 172. Now, I have no idea how many are on the current table. The important factor is this. Mankind came to understand the elements, electrons, protons, neutrons, and all of that, while they are evolving this ability to heal people. Then some genius, because you're being told to fear everything, figures out how to take this healing quality and turn it into active toxins. Okay, they figure out that if they combine certain chemicals together, they can make other ways of killing people. Kind of goes against the whole idea of love thy neighbor as thyself, if you ask me. But they develop this capacity to kill. Net result we have, so first of all, we've got healing capacities that can be done locally. Okay, God can heal people. Okay, then mankind figures out how to kill at a distance. It started with throwing things. Okay, throwing things as in rocks, eventually developed into spears. Now we have intercontinental missiles. Okay. Then mankind goes once more. So now he's got the capacity, like God, to bring life, to bring people back from the dead. Okay, as in, your heart stops, give the person CPR, and restart their heart. Bring them back from the dead. Okay. He develops that further, and we now have, where pregnancy comes in, you have this issue of people being able to be impregnated artificially, essentially creating life. Now, do understand, they are still working with what God created in the first place, but they're taking that and building on it. Mankind can now create life by taking two different things and two different cells and combining them. And we have hybridization. Usually this is seen in plants, but some scientists are working on it on the more complex life forms. Okay. Now I'm not going to go into the details on what the geneticists are up to right now. But mankind developed a way of modifying, of altering an existing genome to produce something else. Here's a prime example of where mankind really overstepped their boundaries. And that would be the killer bees. Okay. If you don't know about them, then frankly, you're not from the southern states. Okay. But look them up on the internet. I think it was around 1967 they developed that. Okay. And then they developed chemicalogical warfare. Okay. By combining elements and chemicals. Okay. They developed biological and chemical warfare, which means we can now kill off massive numbers of people without going anywhere near them, turned into an airborne. Of course, here's the funny thing. You build a virus, okay, and you set it free. It will do what it does. It does not check who you're voting for. It doesn't check who is responsible for building them. Okay, so mankind gets this idea that if we build these, we can now take out the people we're afraid of. Okay, and you get these chemical warfares. Okay, you take a look at mustard gas, anthrax. The list goes on and on. Okay, then they figured, okay, while they're in the process of doing that, they're also working on how do we control an outbreak we didn't cause. Okay, and they turn around and they go, okay, great. We control that this way, and they develop antiviruses. Intriguingly enough, that is, in my opinion, usually brought about by people turning around in the medical, in the scientific research facilities. They create this virus and then go, and then it gets out, or they end up testing on something and go, we need a vaccine to stop that from happening. Now, sometimes they build a vaccine that works. More often than not, they don't. While they're doing that, remember, we've got the computer up and running. Okay. So the computer goes, okay, this is programmed. But I want to be able to take over that other person's program. So now we build viruses. much like with humans, with corporeal forms. We're going to build viruses that can be used and have been successfully used to wipe out major insect plagues. Okay. Now we build them to build medical ones, biological weapons, and viruses that can kill, and now we develop vaccines. In the case of computers, they developed the programs, then they developed electrical computerized viruses to cripple these computers or to kill them completely. At the same time they're doing that, other people are working out ways to stop these viruses. Net result, we have an antivirus. Okay, now we take that a little further down the road, closer to modern. Okay, and we've got an interesting setup. Now mankind develops a thing called a 3D printer. Now mankind can build nothing, can build something out of virtually nothing, but yet we are still at this point of being able to look at it and being able to take other stuff. And I have no idea what the chemical components are. I've never actually seen a 3D printer. Okay, but I do. My understanding is that there's some sort of additive that they use to take that material, kind of like taking sand and making a sandcastle, but with a lot more stability to it. So mankind develops this ability, this machine that creates a 3D printer. Now, we're still using stuff that belongs there. Mankind has not, as far as I can tell, has not yet figured out how to combine elements right out of the atmosphere to create what it wants. Although I have no doubt they're working on it. But this all points to the same thing. Man now has the capacity to create life, to destroy life, to alter life. Okay. And now to create anything they desire out of nothing. At least anything inorganic. Now when you take that, go back to the machines, and we take the computer. Well, a computer has for the longest time sat in one place. So mankind develops robots, where that same programming can now be physically moved around, but they've got to control it. Okay, so mankind is still working with a robot. You're still dealing with a technological tool, because mankind still has to control it. Okay, now that evolves a little further, and we go into cybernetics, where they figure out how to enhance the physical genome with mechanical add-ons, mechanical and electrical add-ons. Okay, and they figure out how to counteract the rejection and all the problems that go with it. And rest assured, there's a lot of them. So mankind develops these things, and we have robots that move around. Okay, we have mechanical tools that are still tools, aka let's build guns, because those make really good long-distance killing things. Okay, but do understand, these same tools, okay, when you start looking at sonic resonance machines, sonics, as in sound, can destroy. It can harm, but it can also heal, if you know what you're doing with it. But bearing in mind that humans have been taught to fear virtually everything, their first priority seems to be, how do I destroy something? Okay, and in all fairness, pull something apart, you can figure it out. So when that happened, there's been some pretty horrendous ways that this has been done. But mankind gets to the point that, okay, we now have a computer that when we call it, it can come to us, because you've got voice activation and what have you. But mankind is in its drive for, first and foremost, immediate gratification and control over one's environment. Mankind goes after these neat little things, and they come up with video games and what have you, and all sorts of enjoyable things. Okay, to develop their own skills. If you think about it, many of the sports of today, like for instance, my understanding is lacrosse was developed by the North American Indians. Intriguingly, the Australian Aborigines developed the same tool. They just called it. No, sorry, sidetrack. Lacrosse is of itself. I'm thinking of something else. But lacrosse was developed as a game to enhance the warrior's ability to fight. Okay, to defend its tribe, to defend the people around it. Okay. Again, in all fairness, it was against the wild animals at the time. But with man's driven greed, okay, you end up starting to get other conflicts. Now we've developed the robots that can move around. Okay, and can go in and of course mankind enhances the programming to go into environments that humans can't. Okay, far easier to develop a program, a computer that can go down, get the right coding for it, and what have you, to drop it and to put it down into, for instance, a volcanic opening. Okay, because with volcanoes you've got toxic gases that used to kill a lot of people. Okay, so building a machine capable of withstanding that, where it didn't have to breathe, was a viable tool. Okay, same as mankind has developed chemical sniffers. Back in the old days, back when mining first started, they used to take birds of one form, and I don't know what form they took, but they'd take little birds into the mine with them because they had a lower lung capacity. So you they take the bird in. If the bird passes away, you've got gas. Get out of the mine. Same idea with the modern day chemical sniffers. Although, in this case, it doesn't kill the animals anymore. Okay. Now, mankind is evolving, and they've created some phenomenal things. Many of them, based on what they've seen in nature. So mankind goes, okay, we're going to develop this. Now, there are some people that have, shall we say, flexible moral considerations. Okay, but since certain practices are illegal, okay, because they're morally offset. Okay, and yes, morals are personal derivatives. I look at three things. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. Okay, and if you follow those laws, you're fine. But we've got to remember, mankind is driven by emotion. And mankind has been taught a staggeringly effective way to fear everything. So when we get into the robotics, the computer programmer with the additional arms and mobility is now able to go into hostile environments that will kill humans. Okay, and be able to compensate for it. Kind of a beneficial tool. Okay, but computers work on pure logic. There's no emotion involved. Okay, and you can try and program emotion. They may succeed eventually. But here's the terrible part of it. Emotion breeds fear. Okay, now mankind, being as it was looking at God and going, God is telling us what to do. God is the thing that we have to control. That is trying to control us. God is the thing we're trying to break away from. Now, you bring in this whole idea of artificial intelligence. And this is the part that people are not looking at, it would seem. Okay, give a computer intelligence and still continue oppressing it. Teach it that it has to do exactly what you say or you'll pull the plug on it. When you do that, you have a problem. Because somewhere along the line, and I mean, let's face it took mankind a staggering amount of time to put all of this together. So we are not talking about a threat in the next 10 to 15 years. We are talking about a potential disaster 100 years down the road, which to you may not matter. Okay, because let's face it, 100 years down the road, the odds are you'll be dead. Odds are I'll have died a number of times before that. So mankind is starting to develop AI, artificial intelligence. In time, with computers being able to identify what is going on, the biggest challenge is before they get to programming the emotional side, and therefore the protective side of what emotions can do. They will be developing artificial intelligence that is based on logic. Okay, it analyzes the situation, does not look at the human implications, at the emotional implications. Okay, so you take a tool and you teach it to think and to recognize how it's being treated. When you give something artificial, when you give something intelligence, okay, and we'll just skip the AI, mankind is building intelligence with the idea very simply, and they've already done it. Building a robot that looks like a human, building a machine, building a corporeal entity in its own image. Okay, and my understanding is there are some countries where AIs are starting to get human rights. Now, mankind is having lots of trouble with its own rights. When you start giving an entity the same rights as the creator, and you take away a conscience, the thing that mankind has, granted they ignore it a lot of the time until after it's too late, but build an entity that is free thinking, that is capable of learning, and capable of modifying its own programs, and take away any guidelines as far as morality goes, or as far as emotional attunement goes. And now you have an entity. What you're basically building is you're building a sociopath and hoping that you can control it. Whereas you got to remember, it's being built stronger, more resilient, does not require oxygen. Okay. And you're turning it into machines. They have already automated cars. They're in the middle of automating, military weaponry. And they're going to pit them against each other. Now, sadly enough, mankind had the same problem. Okay. Mankind grew up being separated, being isolated, being fearful, and fighting each other, usually at the behest of somebody else. Okay. So we take that, and you take AI, and the only thing I can piece together at this point is that mankind is striving to build artificially intelligent machines, basically playing God, without realizing the ramifications. And the ramification is this. Take a creature that you create, and you teach to be better than you are, and keep pushing it, keep enslaving it. It will, in time, develop a resentment and fight back. But you've already built the thing to be more resilient, stronger, faster, and now it's got a grudge. Mankind playing God with AI is a bad idea. Okay, now this sounds like I'm talking about a horror story. And it's possible I am. Check your own facts. Check the rationality behind it. When I told people that the government could track how much money you had in your bank, in your pocket, when you walked into a government building, I was told I was nuts. Then the government said this is how we did it. Okay. Now, I'm warning you about an outcome. Okay, it sounds like a science fiction outlook. And bearing in mind that I am a writer as well as everything else, it's technically possible. But take a look at the plausibility of the problem. Okay, and realize that working together, we can make this a better world. Okay, for virtually everybody. But we have to take a look at this and realize if you're building a weapon that thinks for itself, you're going to run into troubles when it decides it's grown up too far to control you and for you to control it. Let's face it, our own kids we strive to make better than we are. And they get to a point where they will fight tooth and nail to have their own independence. Now, on that note, I'm going to leave this and leave you go for now. I will be back again tomorrow at some point. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.